Welcome back, America. If you're reading just the news a little bit ago, you would have saw this news alert. Judicial Watch has filed a lawsuit trying to force the Metropolitan Police Department here in Washington, D.C. to give up the body footage that its officers had from the January 6th Capitol riot. We've shown some of that footage here on Ear. There's a lot of really intriguing information talking about undercover officers. A lot more probably that our next guest is going to eventually get to the American public. Joining us right now, the president of Judicial Watch and our good friend, Tom Fitton. Tom, big day today. This is a very important lawsuit.
It is. We filed it here in local court in D.C. And, you know, as we were talking just before we came on, what is it now, 3.5 years?
Yeah.
Since the January 6th event. And we still don't have access to the basic video of what happened that day. And the government, the D.C. police, are saying, well, there's ongoing investigations. Well, of course, they want to investigate everybody till the end of time on this. And they're talking about privacy. I'm not sure what they mean there. In the ordinary course, these types of videos are released almost immediately.
That's right.
But, you know, January 6th, none of the rules for disclosure, transparency, prosecution, investigation have been followed. It's been thoroughly politicized, and now we're in court fight over it. This basic information, the Metropolitan Police were right up there, and this body cam footage is certainly going to be in the public interest to get out sooner rather than later, especially since they want the entire election to hinge on what happened on that day.
Yeah, there's no doubt. We earlier, I guess it was almost a year ago now, 8 months ago, we had the footage of that one Metropolitan Police officer undercover, apparently trying to exhort people to rush the Capitol, which has caught a lot of attention. But you're right. Any other police episode, we'd have these body cams 2-3 years ago, right?
Yeah, and the House, under pressure from our litigation and public pressure, the Republicans finally started releasing the January 6th videos there. We had a separate lawsuit, but there are still emails over there that haven't been released. So there's still much in the way of disclosure that should take place by both the House and obviously the feds, and in this case, the D.C. Local police.
Yeah. It's just remarkable. Well, I'm glad you're on the case. Anyone who tangles with Judicial Watch knows that you guys end up winning because you follow the law. And this is going to be an important one. We'll be watching it closely. There's a lot of discussion. I don't think I ever would have imagined 4 months out from the election we'd see the Democrats trying to get rid of their nominee and the nominee fight back. You've been calling for the invocation of the 25th Amendment. Tell us, after all you've seen, why you think that's the appropriate attack.
Well, we had more than enough evidence to suggest he had a cognitive issue prior to the debate. The debate was a dramatic illustration of it. 50 million Americans witnessed that he's not fit, I would argue, for the presidency. And the way the process would work under our constitutional system, the 25th Amendment, is the vice president and the majority of his cabinet would have to make a finding he's not fit, send it to Congress, and if Biden contested it, it would be up to 2/3 majority of each house to find him unfit and to install the vice president as acting president. I think in the meantime, though, there should be pressure by the vice president and his cabinet to take a cognitive test, to do a battery of independent battery of medical evaluations by people who aren't involved, for instance, in the Biden family business, like his personal White House physician is, and get a feel for what his cognitive issues are. He hasn't taken the basic test that doctors put tens and hundreds of thousands of patients through every year that would detail his cognitive issues.
It's just remarkable. And I want to go to that second issue. I don't think in my long years of almost 40 years in this town, I'd ever think that a White House physician who's supposed to take care of the president's health would be talking to a president's family member. But that's what James Comer said happening. How odd is that? And what do you think was really going on there?
Oh, on the business side of things?
Yeah.
I mean, that was Joe Biden's brother, James. He was involved in this company that's been scandalous, to put it mildly, related to Medicare and such. I think it was what is it called?
AmeriCorps,
Yeah, AmeriCorps. Yeah. And according to Politico, this was some time ago. I remember noting it. the president's doctor was somehow involved in advising James Biden on his handling of this business. You know, something that is under federal scrutiny right now, certainly by Congress. You know, and on top of that, we have Hunter in the White House, John. I mean, forget about everything else, you know, the 25th Amendment. We're now in a position where Hunter Biden is in a powerful position in the White House. And it's been public, and no one's doubting it.
Yep.
And he's the keeper of the keys to the Oval Office, it looks like, along with Jill Biden.
It is extraordinary. If we made a movie, I don't think it would be nearly as far-fetched as what this actually is playing out before our eyes. I want to turn to one other thing. There was a very tense set of questioning today at the White House press corps. Good to see them belatedly get onto this story. But they were talking a lot about this Parkinson's disease, and the White House said, we don't have an answer for you. Pretty extraordinary that the presidential press secretary does not want to answer why a Parkinson's doctor was in talking to the White House physician.
It is, and there's no real reason not to disclose it.
Right.
Typically, there's transparency about the president's health here. And, you know, we can laugh a little bit about the president's challenges he's exhibited on film and video, et cetera. But this is a serious issue. The president needs to, the position of the office needs to exert strength and being on top of things to the world. And there's no reason to believe that's the case. And if he's suffering from a Parkinson's-like illness, it may not be Parkinson's per se, right, if you look at what the medical experts say, but there's Parkinson's-like symptoms often associated with dementia, and one could cause the other and vice versa. It's key to understanding his health challenges. And if they were concerned that he has Parkinson's, Katie bar the door in terms of other questions about his dementia. I've long thought that it's not a question of him being on the campaign, what the Democrats are trying to carpet bomb the White House into forcing him from the campaign. It's about whether he's fit to be in the Oval Office and to be running our country and our foreign policy and commander-in-chief. And I don't see any reason to think that he is fit.
Yeah, listen, just some of those answers. If they were just as confused if he was talking to Vladimir Putin or President Xi in China, I don't know what our enemies or frenemies would think. It's so remarkable. Tom, I want to turn to some other great work that Judicial Watch did just before the holidays. We focused on this. In fact, we had, I think, Chairman Comer on to talk about it. The CIA documents. We now know that the effort to suppress the Hunter Biden laptop got to the very top of the CIA. We know that because of the great work you've done. Tell us a little bit about what those documents show and why they're so concerning.
Well, you know, that was an interesting story because the House got some good documents out there showing the request for approval was walked upstairs to, it's not the 7th floor literally, but to the inner reaches of the CIA's leadership team. And we found the timeline through the email traffic about how quickly they turned around approval for this letter. Mike Morrell sent the letter over, said it was a rush job at 6 a.m. or so in the morning.
Right.
Internally, they were prepared to approve it at 8 a.m. They notified him officially a few hours later after they talked to other leaders about it. But the idea that the pre-publication operation that is put in place to review the material written by people with security clearance or CIA connections, the security review, the idea that they would turn something around between the hours of 6 and 8 a.m. Is remarkable evidence that this was a political operation. Yeah. They knew what it was about. It was Hunter's laptop, and they rushed through the approval process to benefit Biden's campaign. That's the conclusion I draw. Look, I've been doing this work for 25 plus years at Judicial Watch. We have significant experience with battles over pre-publication review. Right. The idea that you could get it done in 2 hours, let alone 2 years, and I exaggerate slightly, but not much, it just beggars the imagination that this was put through in an honest and rigorous way.
Yeah, and listen, the one thing the CIA could have done is done what I did when the laptop first came out. Call the FBI and say, hey, do you think this is Russian disinformation? And they would have found out what I found out, which is the FBI never thought it was Russian disinformation. That's a really important part of it. The CIA was sanctioning something that turned out not to be true, right?
Yeah, and they pretended they weren't endorsing it, but obviously you had former CIA directors, and as the congressman pointed out, you had CIA contractors, and the American people and Joe Biden fairly construed this as a letter that had the official stamp of approval from the intelligence operations, the intelligence agencies at the CIA, FBI, et cetera.
Yeah, so very important. Tom, all the work you're doing at Judicial Watch, I couldn't think of how much we would be in the dark if it weren't for your tenacious work every day. Great job on all of these recent developments, and I know you got a lot more up your sleeve, so we'll get you back on real soon.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, good to have you on. Wow, look at all the great work they're doing there, folks. Just amazing.